Very.
Yes.
Sorry for that. So thanks, Rishi, for the wonderful introduction. And just to add a few, one line for Adil before I move to myself, I think the Athletic Federation is perhaps the best federation in the country today.
Yes.
And to Adil for the splendid job being done over there.
Right.
Thank you. You're very kind.
It takes a lot.
As far as I'm concerned, I am part of Star India, responsible for the Sports Development Initiative, working closely with the CII, and been driving the agenda on sports education in schools. Have had moderate success on that, whereby we had the Honorable Sports Minister announce few weeks back about the inclusion of sports in the curriculum in the new education policy, something we have been propagating for a long time with the chairperson of the education committee, Dr. Kasturi Rangan and others. And it will be important to drive the implementation parameters across schools now, which I think forms the foundation for any future Olympic dreams which we chase as a country.
Okay.
Over to
sorry. Yeah, I'll we are live already. I've just got that notification that we are live, and welcome everyone. Welcome all our viewers as well. I think they will all start trickling in the next 5-7 minutes as well. But to kind of give you a brief introduction about everybody on the panel, we have a few slides that will take us through those introductions. And as at Sports for All and in general, I believe all of us will echo the same sentiments that in everything that we do, the athlete is in the center, at the center of everything that we do. And I think athlete comes first, and all of us have to be able to do all the work around it. As Mark also said, right, that there's so much more that goes behind the athlete as well. But because it's athlete first, I'd, quickly want to start off with giving a little bit of an introduction of Jeremy and then posting the first question to him, because athletes also take all that pressure as going forward. So I think they're used to that, Jeremy. So guys, Jeremy, I think, is we are really, really glad and thankful to have him on the panel, because he's a young Olympian now. He's qualified for the Tokyo 2020. I'm sure this weight must be an agonizing one, Jeremy. But, you started off playing table tennis in Canada at the age of 9. And from there, so quickly in a span of a few years, you have qualified for the Olympics. So how does it feel? And how does it feel to be sitting in your home today on Olympic Day? I mean, take us through, a little bit of your journey, and how do you now plan for one more year, right?
First of all, it feels really good to qualify for the Olympic Games. Actually, after I played the qualification tournament, we went into lockdown, I think 2 weeks later. So it was kind of like I qualified for the Olympics, but then I got like a huge break after at home, and I still have it now. So it feels good and relaxing, because I've really been working hard in the past few months. And I've had a very long journey since like I was about 8 and turning 9. 8 turning 9, that's when I first started playing.
Right.
And I never imagined to be like a professional player. I started recreationally, and then I used to play with other kids. They used to have these programs, just like my parents would drop me off there, and I'd just play with the other kids, and we were just having fun. Some extracurricular activities after school. I'm pretty sure kids all around the world, they do that. So
right.
Yeah. So then it just came year by year. I was able to start winning some provincial titles, some national titles, and then slowly I played some international tournaments, some age categories like under 15, under 18, and now I slowly built my way to the men's category.
Wow.
And here I am, like finally I'm able to achieve my Olympic dream, as that is the goal for every athlete, So it's really an honor to be selected for Team Canada to play the Olympic Games.
Yep. The biggest platform, right? Brings everyone together, brings all countries, all sports, all federations. That's what's unique about the Olympics, right? That it's such a melting pot of cultures, institutions, people that come together. And I think, no one better than maybe Adil sir to tell us, what it takes to kind of achieve that dream, as a federation, as an administrator, and also being an athlete yourself, sir. I mean, would be good to kind of, listen to you on that. Adil sir?
On mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Now you're okay. No problem. Yeah.
It's easier to run on the tracks than to do the. Anyway, I first want to wish everybody happy Olympic Day celebrations, and I hope we can imbibe the spirit of Olympianism, which is excellence, integrity, inspiration, solidarity, and respect for all. So, having said that, I think one needs to do tremendous amount of planning. What we've approached, and as Deep mentioned a little earlier, what we've approached is a two-pronged strategy: a elite athlete strategy and a grassroots level strategy. It's a long-term strategy, and you have to start. While the elite one we'll come to in a minute, which is not so difficult, which is the easier part. The most difficult part is the grassroots part, and there you need a structure, a plan, a strategy. You put processes in place. You need the resources to sustain and to grow, and you have to have patience. I think the biggest thing that you need for this strategy to work grassroots level is patience. And I'll just give you a very small example of what we did.
Yes.
15 years ago, we started the National Inter-District Athletic Championships. In the first year, we had 90 odd districts out of the 700 and odd districts in India. Maybe that time there were just about 700. Today there are 700 plus districts, out of which about 100 districts you can't reach because they are so far off in Ladakh or in Kashmir or at the borders. We may not be able to reach, but I am really looking at 650 districts.
Yes. Wow.
Last year, in the 15th year, we had 503 districts.
Wow.
We get 13 athletes and one manager or coach from each district to come and participate directly at the Inter-District Athletic Championships. It's bigger than any other championship that happens in India. It is the largest grassroots level program in the world, as declared by Sebastian Coe, President of World Athletics.
Wow.
4,500 kids come to participate. Athletic Federation of India pays for their travel, their food, their accommodation, conveyance, everything.
Wow.
Then these 4,000, we don't just have a competition and leave them. What we do is now, for the last 1 year, we've started a talent search program within that, where these athletes are put through 14 parameters. So it may be that somebody who's coming from an urban area, and this is only for under 14, under 16 in specific events.
Wow.
It may be that somebody who's coming from an urban area has a better pair of spikes and has got a starting block and wins. But it could be the person who came 4th, 5th, 6th might be more talented.
Yep.
And what we're doing is we're doing these tests on the athletes to try and get the best.
Right.
So what has happened after 15 years? We've got 2 junior world champions. We've got one world university champion. So it's patience. It takes time. It takes time. You have to put those blocks in place.
Correct.
And it's a matter of time that they grew from 90 odd districts to today. Today we are at 503 districts. Our aim is to try and touch 600 districts next year.
Wow. And the real effort.
I am going to every single state and talking to every single district president and secretary to make sure that they send their teams. It's free for them. They don't have to spend money. But this is the sort of work that we are doing, and it takes a lot of time.
Yes,
Yes.
and I think the results of what was sown 15 years ago, as you said, from 90 districts to 505 odd districts today, and the 2-3 champions that have come after 15 years. Now that the foundation is set and so strong, it's not going to take another 15 years for more and more athletes to come. In fact, the results or the fruits of this program would be born starting now, I guess, right? And in the next
Absolutely.
5 years, we will see so much more coming out of these platforms. I mean, that's tremendous work. And I can only imagine, right, going to all of these districts, talking to each one of them, completely different cultures in India, almost, I would say 550 districts, 550 different cultures. It's as diverse as it can get. And then to be able to achieve this is no mean feat. I mean, it's fantastic, right? And this is only for one sport, which is athletics. Imagine if we had to be well at the Olympics.
If we did this in all sports, the whole
Yes.
sporting culture would change.
Change,
Yeah,
absolutely. And
absolutely.
that's really what will galvanize a lot of people, right? In fact, there are some programs I mean, just to hint out a little bit about school sport and the culture that is prevalent currently at the school sport, uh, is that as you said, that it's not the first, second, and third that matter. Probably the fourth, fifth, sixth could be the better ones. Even currently, the platforms that are available at school are pretty much so structured so stringently that only 2 athletes or 3 athletes from a school are even allowed to participate, because administrators cannot take that load of having hundreds of athletes coming forward. And one thing, I was also a national level swimmer at one point in time, but what I figured was that by the age I was 16, 17, I had already worn out with the amount of competitions, the district, state, national levels, and the way we were dealt with as athletes, right? By the time you actually think you will peak, you're already finished. And people who are actually 7th, 8th, and 9th at that time have gotten better at that age. And I think that's what Rushdie propagates so vehemently and so passionately, that at this younger age, every kid should try playing multiple sports for your bodies to get accustomed. And it's more about imbibing that sporting culture, the happiness that you get out of sport before you can actually decide your specialization in sport. So Rushdie, I mean, your thoughts on this are going to come in
Yeah.
at the right time. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think, it was mentioned a couple of times, and the key word to it is the culture, changing the culture in sport. I mean, changing the culture in the country to one that, where sport becomes part and parcel of everything that we do. I think, a country as vibrant and as widely diversified as India, and certainly based on what we've seen in a very short period of time, certainly as talented as as what we can see from some of the athletes that come into our IIS, the ingredients are there for success. However, as Mrs. Sumirawala said, the key is patience. We need to give these athletes an opportunity to experience sport, to do different things, to enjoy themselves. Most importantly, enjoy themselves, experience a whole wide range of sports. I mean, early specialization is something that comes up over and over and over again. And you mentioned it yourself. I mean, by the time you actually got to 16, 17, when you were supposed to make the transition into senior elite performance, you are worn out by that time. So Rishi,
Yep.
I mean, you've obviously felt that directly. For me, I think the culture of sport and allowing kids to play, the more kids that we have playing at the bottom end of the sport, not only athletics or swimming, but if it's volleyball and basketball, the kind of skills that you're teaching them, not only physiologically, but also socially, going to be so important.
Right.
Not everybody is
Yep.
going to achieve that Olympic dream, right? And what you also want to ensure is that you have lifelong participants in the sport, people that are going to go and be champions of your sport in a couple of years' time, not people that would have had a bad experience because they've been driven through the mill at 7, 8, and 9 years old. So for me, listening to what Adil said, the joy of getting kids out there, just playing, having fun, promoting sport, having parents to enjoy it also, because that's the other path, but parents need to enjoy what they kids.
We need to be. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Little echo. Yes.
So, we need to find innovative ways of doing things where kids and their parents can come to a sports field and enjoy things together, because ultimately having the parents involved, supporting the children to have fun and to enjoy it at a prepubescent age is extremely important. As I said, we've been around, IS has been open since 2017, and some of the kids that have come through our doors, it is just amazing. We've got staff from quite a few different countries, and the comments that you will find is that these kind of, the talent that you're seeing coming through there is comparable to anything else in the world, right? It's just about ensuring that we give them a pathway of fun and enjoyment through their prepubescent years, and then towards, once they grow up and mature a little bit more, the opportunity where they then can take the next step up into international sport. We're not looking for 9 and 10-year-old kids. We're looking for, an athlete that is going to be there, full their potential, and based on, like I said, based on the various parameters and based on what we've seen, the opportunities for India to exploit all that. You get a healthier nation, which has a knock-on effect on other industries, the healthcare, and just well-being of society.
Right. I mean, you couldn't have put it better there, and I'm sure Dean must be really smiling listening to you that more people think, because Dean runs something which is called Fit for Kids in UK, which is a school kids and a kids program, a community sport program, just for a healthy and fun way of life, Dean. Right, and that becomes so important in the larger scheme of things. So I mean, Dean, if you would like to kind of take it from there to say how it all works, and
So Fit for Sport is the company which is part of a Junior Adventure Group, which is a global company, international company now. And it's great hearing these conversations around children. And so I suppose my background being a very good tennis player as a young child and a London champion, unfortunately getting injured as a child, not being able to progress my career, I started coaching children at a very early age. And my passion was always giving children the opportunity. I was very lucky. I was spotted playing in a park by a gentleman walking by and said, "Where do you play, in a club level?" I said, I can't afford it, which we couldn't. And he very kindly gave me a scholarship, and this is why I'm here today. So we must build a foundation. And you mentioned, Rashid, about fun. I built my company with 6 values. The first value of my company, and every staff member we employ needs to understand these values are very important. The first value we put into the company is called fun. Children are simple. They want to do things again and again if it's fun. And all too often, we try to mix sports up with technique too early. We try to ask children to have a race. And children are very clever. They know who's going to come first. And unfortunately, you know when you're going to come last. Yet we do it again and again and again. And I became a PE teacher, head of PE in a prep school in Kensington, London. And very quickly, I noticed that out of every class of around 28, 30 children, there was naturally 10 children good at sport. Very lucky I was one of them as a child. There's always 10 children very good at sport. They'll be good at all the sports. They played the after-school clubs, the weekend clubs. They played for the local teams. But there was 20 in every class that felt they wasn't very good, that felt that those others was better than them. So they was not going to get picked for the team. They was not going to win a race. Yet what I found in my journey through being a PE teacher was the talent actually lied with these 20 children. And sport is taught at the technical level too early, disengages those children, not only for the particular sport, but disengages them for life. And it's our job and your job and India's job to make sure all children have a fun and engaging and enrichment experience playing sport, but not realizing it's a sport. And I give an example. We could have a race around a playground, and I know who's going to win every time. We can then split it up to relays and split up the fast kids with the other children and have a very unique race where everybody's got a chance of winning and being part of a team. That to a child gives them confidence, self-esteem, and actually the belief that, okay, I may not be the best, but I'll give this sport a go.
Yes.
And that's what we need to create.
Yes.
The children having the attitude as I can and I will take part in this sport, because you'll find that the talent comes from the people
Correct.
that are not.
Absolutely. And it's
best.
more about attracting kids to a playground at an early age rather than, attracting them to that medal at a very early age, if I could put it in that one line. And I'm sure, Mark and Deep pretty much will echo these sentiments, because, Deep is pretty much on this mission of making 300 million kids of India play for 1 hour every day. And that in itself, right, is a challenging enough task to do, because people need to start thinking sport, right? Especially in countries like India, where in fact, over the last 10 years, I would say a lot has happened in India. I think we must have grown tenfold in the last 10 years with this entire sentiment, even with the governments, coming in and propagating sport and making Khelo India a way of life. Before I go on to Mark, I'd like to, touch upon what Deep's thoughts are on this and how he sees 300 million kids of India playing through, how is all of that going to come together, Deep? So much effort has already been made. You've already seen the results of many of those efforts, and take us through, everything that you are trying to do in terms of getting there.
Thanks, Rishi. No, I think I completely resonate with what Rashdi and Dean said. I think sports predominantly has to be fun. I think somewhere down the line we lost that as a component in our sports. I always believe that sports is a bottoms-up approach. It's not a top-down approach, really. Yes. Unfortunately, for our country, that's how we have treated sports. It's the entire sporting ecosystem, revolves around 5-6 top-end leagues.
Yes.
But there are multiple hundreds of local sporting events which need the requisite focus and the nurturing, which can bloom into large opportunities and talent. I think we need to start looking at grassroots sports or youth sports from the lens of education. I've always maintained that to me, sports is equal to education. It's as much a component of a child's life as much as maths and physics or chemistry is.
Right.
And there are enough and more data points which say that it's good for a child's overall growth and personality and all that.
Right.
But I think the most encouraging part has been that there's a medical data now emerging that it is actually good for learning outcomes. So a lot of developing economies who are grappling with the lower learning outcomes, academic outcomes in schools should look at sports.
Right.
I've had access to a very fascinating report by a Brookings institution. It says that it takes 6 generations to bridge the education gap between a developed and a developing nations, unless some really innovative tools are employed. That's, I think, is a very profound statement. It basically means that none of my children can compete with their counterparts in West unless some really innovative tools are employed. And to my mind, sports is that low-cost, high-impact strategy which can leapfrog education in all developing nations at a very minimalistic cost.
Right.
So while we are in the rush to embark on edtech and solutions and all of that, here is a model and a solution which is lying right in front of us, we should really embark upon.
Yes.
And that's been the drive which we have been doing with the ministry, with the education institution, with the governing body on education of this country. And I'm happy to say that there's been a tremendous amount of reciprocation by the government and the academic body in the country.
Right.
We just had the Honorable Minister announce that sports will be part of the curriculum in the new education policy, which is very, very encouraging and refreshing news. We also had the Central Board of Secondary Education, which is the largest governing body of education in the country, make one sports period a compulsory for every classes. So I think I take the point which I think Dean was also mentioning, that is not about the top 3 students in the class who are good in sports. It is the bottom 50 students in the class who are not good in sports.
Yep.
Sports is necessarily about making an inclusive affair of getting everybody together.
Right.
And I must congratulate what Rishi has been doing on Sports for All, which is about getting kids onto the playground and making them have fun. I think that's really the important piece.
In fact, when we go on to schools, right, there are a lot of teachers, a lot of coaches, a lot of parents who keep saying that, we are not good at sports, so we won't participate.
Yeah.
It's more of the challenge that we face, right, is about nurturing minds or changing minds and their thought process, because they feel that if I'm not good enough, I should not go out there and play. And that just like how Adil sir mentioned that he's gone to 550 different districts to galvanize the entire district program for the Athletics Federation. We are trying to do similar things by we've gone to almost 2,500 schools in the last 4 years. The team at SFA trying to explain and understand the fundamental or the concept of just getting more and more kids to play, and that takes the lungs out of us when we try and explain that to them. And that straight up brings me to Mark, because what Mark is
can I just make one more point before
yes,
you move
sure
I think I just was fascinated by what Adil shared in terms of the reach in districts across the country, and it takes me back to cricket, which is by far the largest sport in this country in terms of following and all of that. What people often forget the fact that sporting community started investing in grassroots program probably 30-40 years back, and the benefits we see today are really the outcome of the investment they did, something similar to what Adil has been doing. So yes, that's really the model on reaping the benefits over a period of time through the grassroots program.
Adil sir, can we have a blueprint for all the other federations, to start that today?
No, I have said that to all the federation. I've said it to Indian Olympic Association. But I must support something what Rashdi said about early specialization. And one of the biggest problems we've had in athletics, I don't know much about other sports, but in athletics, we kill our athletes before they actually come into the senior. And that is another whole discussion on coaching, etc. But I'll keep it aside. But I'm saying that Rashdi is absolutely right in saying that, and you faced it yourself. So, but this is one of we have 3 or 4 very big problems. 1 being overage, 2 being early specialization, and 3 being doping. I'm not going to discuss those at the moment. But these are the 3 pillars which is destroying Indian sport.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, undoubtedly, and that is the reason why all of us, here are trying to work out of our skins to be able to change that. Mark, in fact, has been doing sport only with that fundamental of developing society and developing, his country and people around him. Mark, it's a very, very new territory for us to be able to understand how sports is governed back in, in the Caribbean islands, in Jamaica, where so many champions have come out. How are these levels built? I mean, how does it start? How is the process is there? And,
Thanks, Rishi, and thanks for inviting me to be a part of the discussion. I feel like if I've been having a conversation with all of these panelists before, and it's really refreshing, because oftentimes when you think about Olympic dreams and that part of the podium, our strong focus is on that early talent identification and early sports specialization. So it's really refreshing to hear the other panelists recognize the importance of the correct investment at the correct times. I think there's several things that have evolved over the years, and Mr. Adil talked about his 2-pronged approach about 2 decades ago, when we were starting to build the sport policies in the Caribbean. We were leaning on the expertise of the Australians, particularly the Australian Sports Commission and organizations like the Sport and Commonwealth Games Canada. And they all promoted that 2-pronged model of mass participation, grassroots type of thing, and then the high performance. The challenge with the Caribbean is that when you're bringing these foreign consultants from Australia or wherever else to tell you about their model, we try to use their model here locally, but we don't have the same structures in place. And then we tend to neglect our own model that already exists, and sometimes policy is informed by practice. Look, the Caribbean is a sport-loving region. We naturally love sport.
Yes.
And you would ask me at some time about the influence of people like Usain Bolt and whether they inspire people to participate. And Usain Bolt, like Brian Lara and your own Sergeant and Dukas and Tiger Woods and all of those iconic athletes are inspirational, and their legacy will remain. But the truth is that real champions who influence children and young people to participate in sport are not the Usain Bolt. All the time. It's the parents and the first instance.
Yes.
A 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old really is not interested in a Usain Bolt. So their initial influence is from their parents. The parents are the ones who think this magic ball, that football, that cricket ball, that volleyball, basketball, tennis ball, whatever it is. That's the beginning of their sport influence. And so the parents are really a critical element. So if I had to invest in influencing children to participate in sport, the number one investment would start with parents. But the parents only introduce them. The one to keep them on are the coaches. And so for me, that would be my second area of focus. Once children and young people to stay along that pathway in sport participation, whether it is for health benefits or just for getting to that Olympic podium, a really strong commitment has to be invested in coaches.
Yep.
But you really see that the truth is that if we want to get to that podium, we can't just focus on that pathway to excellence. We have to also recognize all of the other things that support that. And I think Rushdie and Deep all referenced that in order for us to get to that podium, we need to start with ensuring that, and this is the competitive advantage that India has. You have 1.3 billion people. We only have 1.3 million in Trinidad. So if you look at the last, let's say from Atlanta in 96 to Rio in 2016, India would have got about 14 medals at the Olympics. Trinidad would have got about 12. And yet we are so much smaller. And so what you have not been taken advantage of, your competitive advantage, is scale. You have so many people. But if they're not participating at that grassroots level, then you're not taking advantage of your competitive edge. So I agree with your approach of investing in grassroots sports. I think that's critical. For us, that has already been a natural part of our life in the Caribbean, that we grew up playing sport in and out of school. Luckily for us, it's embedded in our national policies across the region. So we've had sport as part of our schools curriculum for more than 2 decades now. It's mandatory for elementary school. All children have to be part of physical education. And there's a school sport culture as well. In Jamaica in particular, there are more people who attend the school track and field meet. They call it the boys, but their main track and field meet for secondary schools and primary schools. More people go to that event than go to any other event in Jamaica.
Yep. Wow. I mean, send us some videos of that. There'll be tremendous examples to share with a lot of people, in the community at grassroots level community here.
That's something that's embedded in culture. That wasn't something that was invented by an Australian model or any other model. That's part of a natural culture. That's why you need to look at what's the natural culture of participation in it.
I think a larger message is coming out here, from everybody that's talking. The large message is that in the growing up years of a child, it is his immediate ecosystem, which is his family, his parents, and his school environment and peers that, show him the pathway. The Usain Bolts and Hima Dases of the world will ignite the aspirations, but here we will have to start building the blocks, for them at every step that they take. And I think Jeremy, how was all of these systems and processes and people around you that played a part in you, qualifying for the Olympics today, or even taking up sport? Forget qualifying for the Olympics, but just taking up sport, right? I mean, all of these platforms around you and opportunities would have attracted you. So I'm sure this is not too much of your topic at this point in time, being an athlete. You don't have to focus on this, but we'd like to listen to you on that.
Okay. Some factors for sure. First of all, my parents, they're very supportive of me. So in terms of all the tough moments that I had, they've always been there for me to guide me. So that definitely helped me throughout my career. And also my coaches that I have worked with. Time to time, obviously, I have different coaches based on my level, from recreational to more as professional. One of my coaches actually was a 2-time Olympian. My current coach was actually a 2-time Olympian. So he kind of really like say like, I've been there, you know. So I really look up to him, and fun. And I'm in the Olympics now.
Nice.
So it's really good. And also my parents, they provide a lot of financial support. That is very important, especially in any sport. If you want to go high level, you need the financial support from your parents, or else you cannot really excel.
That's true.
And for school, it was very tough for me throughout the years, balancing school and my sport. When I was in high school, I went to a sports high school, actually. So what the high school did was, they let me take as many days off as I wanted for some training and some competition. And they also let me like finish all the projects at before the exams. So there's no like due dates for anything. Whereas a regular school, you know, you have these due dates. If you don't submit them, you get a 0. So these things are really important, because I need time to make sure that my schoolwork is perfected, and also my sport. And my training in both.
Yep, that's so important, right? Everything matters. And you also brought up something called as financial support, right? Wanted to kind of, in fact, even Mr. Adil Sumariwala brought up the fact that, you know, the Athletics Federation conducts these district meets without taking a single penny from any participant whatsoever, right? So it is a challenge. It is a challenge to be able to rake up the finances in terms of putting these platforms out there, because, you know, long-term investments in sport is not today people are investing, you know, in digital, in all the other avenues that are opening up, but, you know, grassroots level sport is not as I mean, what do you call it, but not as attractive to investors and things like that over a period of time, in multiple ways, right? Be it governments, be it private entities, be it sponsors. It takes a lot to you know, bring back to the grassroots level sporting system. And I also had a very interesting piece of stat out here which says that, you know, India spent close to 38 crore rupees before you know, the 2016 Olympics, whereas the UK spent about $350 million in its preparations to the Olympics. So I mean, every country will have its own dynamics. I'm not here beating down any one country, because everyone has their own challenges. But yes, these are points that we should take note of, you know, in terms of understanding how that graph for India will go over a period of time. You know, I mean, if Adil sir, you want to throw some more light on that, Deep, please feel free to do so, as to the challenges that we all may encounter, you know, in this.
No, sure. Okay. So I'm saying money is important, but that's not the only thing. Okay, because money can't buy you medals. Okay, so money is important, but we need to create a sporting ecosystem. That's the most important thing. We need to give our athletes support, which is not just a coach, which means physios, which means doctors, which means sports sciences, which means labs, which means recovery, which means competition, which means everything. So we need to create that whole infrastructure. Now we are talking elite. Now we are not talking. Now we are not talking grassroots. Now we are talking elite. Okay. Again, there the problem is, if you could go and ask for a coach, say $10,000, they'll say no, you get him for $8,000. So you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Now we have to understand, if you are fighting at the Olympic Games, you are fighting the best in the world. I come from industry. I mean I run a company. So to me, if I have to fight the best in the world, which let's say a GE or a Walmart or an Apple or whoever, then I need people, the best brains and the best support system for my athletes. because I'm putting my athletes into the, into a tiger's cage to fight the best in the world.
Correct.
And if my athlete has to win, I can't cringe on these peripheries unless I give my athlete the best. And then people ask stupid questions. Oh, we have 1 billion people. We can't win. We can't do that. No, let's give the athletes an ecosystem and they will win. I have absolutely no doubt.
Yes.
Very, very glaring example was Commonwealth Games. We gave our athletes a very good ecosystem. Could have been far better, but I'm saying it was a great ecosystem. We won 101 medals. Never before, never after. The 2 Commonwealth after that, we won 64 medals each, which is a very simple thing. Because of the Commonwealth Games, we won 6 medals in London. We were back to 2 medals in Rio.
Correct.
Because that had worn off. So I'm saying let's create that ecosystem.
Right.
So and both have to go parallelly, the grassroots level, which will feed into the main system, and your elite system, because only if you have champions and if you have people who you want to look at, then like you have a Tendulkar, every parent says, I want my son to be a Tendulkar. Something like that, hero worship.
But yes, so like very interesting, right? That in fact, Rushdie, I'm going to pull you into this conversation because this is something that I always said that, running a sports business is not only about numbers, right? People may think it's just another business, but there is so many elements, right? Of compassion, of mental well-being, of understanding human beings, that actually creates or fuels this system. And in fact, when I was at the opening of the IIS, I remember Mr. Parth Jindal saying this, that this is not just hard infrastructure that we've built. The more effort has gone into building the soft infrastructure of this institution, which is its people, which is people like you, which is the trainers, which is the science, which is, the nutritionists, physiotherapists, all of that come together. And, it's not only about numbers, right? I like Adil sir said that 1.3 billion people does not mean we will win 1,000 medals. It cannot be equated that way.
Yeah,
so I'd like to know
us, I think the most important part, is that we're trying to build that culture of high performance that upon which the ecosystem can sit. So, we look after from our side when an athlete joins us. Firstly, they go through a complete physical and medical screening. We want to understand whether they're healthy and well. But we also take a lot of time to understand more about the athlete as a human being. We encourage our athletes to enroll in the school and to carry on with their studies. These things are really, really important. And as you said, the soft skills, for us, it's about creating an interdisciplinary environment at our institute, where we have different experts that are working together towards a common goal and understanding what it is that they need to contribute towards the overall objective of that athlete being able to perform at their very best. We believe in a coach-led environment, and coaches are a little bit different from what they were a couple of years ago. For me, and I speak to our coaches about this all the time, I think the coach is more like a conductor now, right? In an orchestra, they need to be able to draw on the expertise of the various people around them, the physiologists, the strength and conditioning coach, the doctors, the nutritionists, and that coach needs to get them all together playing in harmony, right? So that you can get the symphony.
Right.
And if you don't have that, right, and you've got all these people doing different things and not working in one direction, all you're going to get is a whole cacophony of noise. So, it's something that we're working on still. Have we perfected it? Absolutely not. We're lucky that we're in an environment here that, it's an enclosed environment where people can walk over into everybody else's office, where they can communicate with each other. And I think that's very, very important, being able to communicate. And again, something are we there yet? Absolutely not. Can we do a whole lot better? But we have invested extremely, we've done a big amount of investment in our people, and that goes across the board. from our coaches to our administration, and it includes, you know, our kitchen staff, for example, right? I mean, we've invested heavily in that because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our athletes are having good nutrition and that we can control that. Our maintenance staff, right? The people that that are cleaning our facility and working in and around our facility, you know, they play a massive role. You know, just the fact that, you know, we're very, very proud of this, that we maintain a world-class facility where athletes and staff can feel that they can come there and do their best every day, right? Our team that works in our horticulture, they play a role in what we do, right? If our gardens are not done properly, it automatically means we're pushing up 2 degrees, 3 degrees of temperature, which is not optimal for training. So everybody, we believe that everybody, you know, from our coaches to our sports science team to our operations team, everybody has a role to play in the environment, at the center of which is the athlete. We can only ask the athlete to get up every day and deliver their best performance and be the best that they can be. And if that is going to be good enough at the Olympic Games, which we believe it will be, then we will see success. Either way, it is critically important that an athlete coming to IAS develops holistically, right? Because we know what the attrition rate in terms of sport is. And it's as important for those people and those athletes that walk through our door to walk back out being a better citizen, being a better human being, and a contributing member of society. So, you know, we spoke about this quite a lot, but the culture and and what sport brings is so much more than just medals, right? Yes, medals is important, and I'm a high performance man through and through. But we also need to take into account that in order for that one person to win a medal, there needs to be people around them, there needs to be other athletes around them whose shoulders that they need to step on in order to achieve what they need to do, right? And everybody plays a role in that at IAS.
I think that's exactly right. At the elite level, it is all of these people come together, and ultimately, you know, all of these putting in that effort brings that tear in the eye when that athlete wins the medal, right? Because it's really all of that starts coming back again, and you know, bringing me back to Dean, because Dean, we operate in a business where, you know, we don't see that Olympic medal. What we are trying to do is build that culture, try and get as many kids to sport. And there's a very fine balance, right, between two children itself, in terms of one wants to win a medal, the other does not even know what a medal is.
Exactly.
And when you kind of get both of them or multiple of those people to play, right, the young kids and all of that, those are very, very fine lines that, you know, we as administrators of grassroots level sport need to deploy. So Dean, what do you do, you know, to bridge that gap of that want versus, you know, just the joy of playing?
Well, I think, you know, great that you've mentioned that we do all the hard work and never get rewarded, which is always forgotten.
I was telling Rusty that we do the dirty work, whereas he was shouting at me saying, "You don't."
I'm sorry, I'm
going to stop that.
No, that's hard work, not dirty work.
Without the grassroots, we cannot exist.
So I think for me, there's three sort of fundamental pillars, and if any of them fall down, it just doesn't work. The pillar and the first stage is what I'm and you're sort of involved in, is the engagement and mass participation. And we have to understand, you know, if I ask you all to remember your school days and your best and worst teacher, you can remember them and name them like that. I can still today. And the same goes for coaches. You remember your best and worst coach. And it's our job at a very early age to make sure that those coaches are trained appropriately, qualified, to make sure it's fun and engaging for all children. The next phase is that talent spotting, that pathway, where we have a feeder system to the potential national governing bodies or those club format after and out of school system, which take people like Jeremy out of the school and give them a little bit more support with a bit of high level coaching. And then you have the elite athletes, which if you don't invest in that elite athlete, and I've worked with some of the big elite systems over in the UK, if you don't invest in that holistic approach, including nutrition and massage work, whatever, complete, it doesn't work. And so it's really important that those three pillars are working in sync, but also are invested throughout. And if you miss one of them off, unfortunately, we're going to fail in the new position that India are trying to get to.
It's such a unique challenge. At every level, every stakeholder needs to come together. And, you know, I mean, I'm just so happy today that, you know, we have people who've given all their time to this webinar, who come from, you know, high performance, who come from federations, who come from the Olympic background, who have worked so closely with the governments, all come, and Jeremy, right? All coming in together. I think at every level, all of us here are working at some level of the pyramid, which is in turn, you know, feeding into another.
Yeah,
and
I think there's one other really important element which I think Deep mentioned earlier, which when I was in India, I think is your biggest challenge, if I'm honest, is to get parents understanding sport is good for the children.
That's right.
Playing sport would not hurt your education system or your child's ability to potentially get a job if they don't quite make the athletic system. And I think that there's a lot of research out there that children sleep better, they eat better, they move better, they concentrate better. But you know what? The academics improve when they play sport.
Absolutely.
And that message has got to be, in my view, throughout this new wave of India, to make sure parents support their children. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of resistance from mass participation.
I'll in fact let Deep take over on that, but I think this exactly is the reason why this policy come up by the sports minister is going to be so instrumental in changing minds, right? Because now parents automatically are going to look at that as a subject, and they are going to be able to give that kind of importance at a very, very large level. See, we come from the urban areas, you know, thankfully we've had some good education, a good ecosystem, say good opportunities around us. But as we move outward, we see that, you know, majority of the people still don't have it. And I think that's what this step taken by the sports minister, the honorable sports minister, is going to play such a crucial role in further propelling India's growth over the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, Deep, correct me if I'm wrong, and let me throw some light on that, and it'd be good.
No, you're actually right. You know that. So let me get slightly technical now. You know, this is the medical data which says that sports creates a neurotrophic factor in the brain called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which increases the production of neurons in the frontal lobe and hippocampus area by almost 200%. Now, these two parts of the brain are directly related with learning, retention, and application. And there have been experiments done by the medical community to say that the engagement of a child running with the ball to score a goal is as high as solving a complex mathematical problem. So there is empirical data now which actually substantiates that it's actually good for your learning outcomes, something which all of us have been grappling with. Yeah. Unfortunately, the Indian child plays an average of 40 minutes a week. That's the playtime an average Indian kid has.
That's really low.
Vis-a-vis his counterpart in the West, who plays about 15 hours a week. So you see the kind of gap we already are sitting on.
Yep.
And while we can talk about various initiatives being done, I think if you are unable to control the basic input level, nothing's going to change dramatically.
Yep.
The other point was, I personally believe that I think the sports has to grow in the country. It has to be driven from the industry participation. Today, India is known for its prowess in IT in a very big manner across the world.
Right.
If we go back, what really happened? 30 years back, the IT industry grew up on the backdrop of education, industry participation, and a very favorable policies by the government. And I think that's exactly the way sports going to grow.
Correct.
Luckily, in the last 5 to 7 years, there's been tremendous growth in sports of this country. The multiplicity of leagues. Each of the leagues are very, very successful and have a great fan following. We have leagues almost for every sport now.
Yep.
And I think the growth of the Indian sports industry, which currently is at $2.5 billion, is envisaged to be $15 billion in the next 5 years' time.
Yep.
And that's the kind of growth we will have a rippling effect on your medal tally, our performance, and our athlete performances, etc. And I think that's the way to go.
Yep. I think one very crucial thing that the government has also done is the inception of the Khelo India platform,
That's right.
right?
Absolutely.
That's such an aspirational platform. What I've seen, because we work very, very closely with the Khelo India platforms, both youth games and university games, over and above giving that opportunity to those 8,000, 10,000 athletes on such a mega scale and that kind of a stage, what it's doing, it's actually galvanizing states, and now it's also going on to the districts. Because now every child is asking, how do I go to Khelo India, right? That in itself is an amazing thought for kids and schools and teachers and parents to have. And it's about time that, we start building the pathways, very clear pathways to get to that. Because what it does is, it's involving the national federations. It's involving a broadcaster like Star to come on board. It is, galvanizing and igniting minds. And it's, if you remember, it was first called the Khelo India School Games. The name then changed and evolved into the Khelo India Youth Games. And I think, the youth games, the university games, and the school games together can really coexist to, deliver impact to at every level. I mean,
so there's one more now, the Khelo India Winter Games, and this was
the Winter Games.
Launched in Ladakh this year, and I was there.
Yes.
It was fascinating to see the entire society and the ecosystem come alive.
Right.
And I think that's what sports does. It gets the whole society to come together, participate, have fun, as Rashni Dean said it right at the beginning. And I think that's the model we should embark upon. We should create multiple local sporting events, which will get the local talent involved. It will get the participation going. And most important, it's a fun element going. It is also a way to draw the local industry to collaborate on sports, which is unfortunately not very high today. And that's the way we should drive the whole sports ecosystem and industry.
Correct. Absolutely. I mean, that's and I think our efforts are happening, in multiple ways, in multiple parts. Multiple people are putting in that efforts. Maybe what Digital India was 30 years ago, where people didn't even have the confidence of taking a payment credit card. It's also completely changed because, the topmost people of our country and every individual kind of took it upon themselves to kind of, bring that vision of Digital India. So to bring that vision of Khelo India, I think it's all of us and many, many more that, will play a role in doing that. And in fact, I was telling Mark initially that, Mark, you also got to come to India, with everything that you're doing back in the Caribbean and all of that, to deploy some practices from there to here will also make a huge difference. And in Mizoram, he has been to Mizoram, and I told him you need to come back again.
A couple of points. One, responsibility to notice those teachers. So we have in the Caribbean as well, where some teachers are not focused for the focus on Nigeria, and they don't see the we have that funneling of those who want to move on to the pathway to excellence. And that's particularly around that 28-year-old age where they start to move into some areas of specialization and moving to that path. We need to be careful that we don't do that at the risk of not doing anything else. And so if we focus only on their sport performance with nothing else, and if they don't make it or if they're injured, there's nothing for them to fall back on. So a good model we use here in Trinidad, we set up an academy sport so that we're working with the national federation, so students who out of secondary school who are on that pathway to excellence were enrolled with support from coaches and trainers and etc. But they were all moved in an academic program, and they were provided support around life skills as well. So many of them went on to excel at the national level and to represent the country at games. But those who didn't had a university degree to fall back on. So it's also important, even from a human rights perspective, that we're careful about not taking athletes and only focusing on using them for they get the podium without investing in the full education and their general.
So important. Absolutely. And in fact, as much as governments can do, I think even the private organizations can do that. I mean, why I bring private organizations up here is that, maybe 15 years back, I walked into an office called Procam International, and it is the company that started the marathons. I walked in there as an intern, and but before that, I had ran the first marathon that ever happened in Bombay. I participated in it, and to me, that was the most beautiful day that Bombay city had ever seen. And the entire community was out, right? And when Deep said these local events, imagine that one event, that one company has made running a culture in India today. And that's the power that platforms at ultimately it was still a grassroots level or a community engagement event, right? There were only about 10-20 elite athletes who had come from all across the world running, but that changed everything in 15 years for that sport, but for the community and for the way of life. So I think so much potential we have as a nation. If we take up something, we will end up making it happen, right? And I think all of us together will make it happen. So I think I'm really, really optimistic about India's Olympic dream. And I think all of us are, or we would have not been talking with so much passion. But the larger point to derive here is that so many moving parts come together to make it happen. So, yep. And we have a few, if any thoughts from anyone, please go for it, because I have a few questions from our audiences, which I'd like to take up. So,
from my perspective, Rishi, and having come in from, really come into it at a different stage. So, I first moved to India in 2016. And it's important to also note that, there's been a lot that has actually happened. While we can say that, this hasn't been done and that hasn't been done. If you're coming in it from a different perspective and you see it from where it started to where it is now, there's been some really big initiatives moving forward. As we spoke about the Khelo India Games, the opportunity to start creating a pathway for young athletes, and now moving to Khelo India University Games. I think, you're starting to see some movement within, private sector through the CSR initiatives plus government that is, starting to see a movement forward. So we can always talk about what's not happening, but I think it's as important to, celebrate those little victories in terms of building that culture of sport. Every country has its problems. I've worked in a couple of countries now, South Africa, New Zealand, and each of them have different challenges, but there's challenges nonetheless. So, for me, as I said, coming in from where, from a different perspective, seeing those victories, those small victories. When I came in, TOPS was the targeted Olympic podium scheme was a sort of, it was there, but over the last couple of years, you've seen it grow and how it's supporting more athletes. The opportunities for athletes to be rewarded for their performances is as big as anywhere else in the world. So, again, these small things need to start building on top of each other in order for us to celebrate what sport does, both from a grassroots level and from an elite performance level. My coaches, the coaches that work, for me, have been to your particular event. And they came back and they were absolutely blown away. My boxing coach and our athletics coach, and they were absolutely blown away by what they had seen and, the number of kids. And both of them would come and say, this is where it needs to start. This is what we should be doing. We should be involved with initiatives such as this. So, one, let's celebrate the small victories, and two, from our side, thank you very much for the work that you're doing at Sport for All and the other grassroots programs. There's a few others around. And for us, selfishly, this is really important to see athletes coming through the system, that are well trained, that have a multi-sport background, that they are talented, and we can provide an opportunity for them at IIS to be able to fully express the potential that they have.
Yes, we are thankful for that partnership as well, and a lot of people come and tell me, that what if someone else starts the same business that you do and XYZ, and I keep saying that 1,000 more should start. forget, 1,000 will be less. That's how vibrant India is. And a child does not need to play once. He can play 100 times and should go out there and play on 100 different platforms. Why just one? The exposure, the experience, the life skills that you derive out of doing all of that make the biggest difference. And you hit the nail on the head there, Rashdi, by saying that yes, each of us matter in this ecosystem. And Jeremy has been sitting quiet really long, and I think he has a few things to say. Jeremy,
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, please, yes, go for it, Jeremy.
So what exactly?
Yeah,
which more topic would you like me to talk about?
So we have a question for you from one of our audiences from Facebook has asked us this question, that after you finish participating at the Tokyo Olympics, would you come back to India to share your experiences with us? That will really motivate us. So that's one of the questions that I thought. There are too many that have come on Facebook and all of that, so I'm just taking a few, because we also have a little bit of a time restriction for everyone. So
sure.
Yes.
I would definitely come to India to promote sport in general. It'd be my honor to. I definitely one day.
Yes,
possible,
because the young kids here want to play table tennis with you. So yes.
Oh, okay. So hopefully one day I can play with them also.
Yes, absolutely. So that's that, and we'll probably organize a visit at the IIS for you as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well. Yeah, Dean. Mark,
I've got So I've seen a question from the UK. It's a very good question as far as I'm concerned, which I'd like maybe some of the panelists to be able to answer. It's basically saying grassroots has very little investment. This is from Dr. Martin Toms in University of Birmingham, UK. How can we change the attitude of funders in India when there's a huge high profile and sponsorship on the IPL? How are we going to change that?
Wow, who's going to answer that question?
May I jump in here with a suggestion, Dean? I think we've had that battle for years, and even when we had a policy position about mass participation sport or grassroots and high performance sport, 95%, maybe even more, 95% of the budget went to high performance and less than 5%. Wow. So we effectively giving 95% of our budget to less than 3% of the population, the high performance athletes. And then 95% of the population had to scramble for 5% of the budget. It was ridiculous. And I noticed about 15 years ago, started to shift that balance. We've kind of tried a different strategy, and in more recent times, instead of using the same funds and trying to fight for the same pie, we started to look for other pies. And one of the pies that's available to us is the health pie. And so we've been able in recent times to secure funding and equipment for schools, not through sport, but through health, using sport as a tool for addressing obesity. And I think we need to be creative, or we could keep fighting the same battle, or we could choose another way of
fighting the battle. True.
And because of the chronic issue of non-communicable diseases and childhood obesity and early onset of diabetes that's affecting our children globally, we now have a good partner in the health sector. Even with COVID-19, we found that students who have those comorbidities are more likely to end up severely ill or die. So now we need to leverage that to say, hey, look, sport can also help address our health issues, but health needs to start investing. And we've done health sector funding to support grassroots programs. So good collaboration opportunities there.
Right. Adil sir, I have a question for you. It's coming from Mr. Rajiv. He's asking that, how important will it be for federations to partner with private companies to dish out more and more programs in partnership to expand their reach, to expand their growth of a sport like athletics? I mean, I thought it would be very relevant, so I thought I'd kind of ask this question to you. And do they play any role, or how do you see it happening in the best possible manner?
Okay, so I don't think that any federation can survive without corporate funding. We get some corporate funding, uh, through Nestle. However, having said that, the government funds most of the programs. The government does not fund the federation. The government does not give a single rupee to the national federations.
Correct.
However, the government supports my athletes, my coaches. We need, and this is my biggest pain with corporates, that corporates do not chip in to partner with federations and the government. And I would say in nation building, especially at the grassroots level,
Yes.
at the grassroots level, because this is part of nation building.
Yes.
If 60% of your population is below the age of 40, and we are doing so much work going into districts, etc., government is doing their bit, but I think the corporate is not. And there are two types of funding in corporate. One is advertising, where they get where they want ROIs. But what is that ROI?
Yeah, that's true.
That is the question. The second is there is CSR funding.
Yeah.
Do you know that if you just take the net profit of the top 3 companies last year was 91,000 crores.
Yes.
91,000 crores, which is 1,800 crores at 2% CSR, which is the national sports budget of this country, which is roughly 2,000 crores.
Yep.
There are 33 companies whose net profit is over 3,000 crores.
Yep.
Okay. Now do these companies, I'm not saying that they should give all their money to sport. I'm saying, let's say they give 50% of that money.
Correct.
Even if they give 1% to sport,
yep,
there can be a super partnership between government, federations, and I'm saying there are federations which are good and there are federations which are not so great.
Correct.
I would say bad, they're not so great. For example, we have full transparency. We have CAG audit. We are under RTI. We've got ourselves designated as public servant. So therefore, anybody can come in. I'm saying have a special board with corporate, with government and the federation, who will control the whole infrastructure.
Correct. Absolutely.
And form that ecosystem that we so badly require.
Yes. Absolutely. I think Deep also keeps talking about the CSR money, right, coming into sport at grassroots and to federations. One thing that I've seen in my experience is there are a lot of corporates out there, who have the money, but when it comes to CSR funding and when it comes to sport, they would want to invest, but they invest it in their own programs.
Absolutely. That's the issue. They want to, and they want to get a marketing, they want to get a marketing benefit out of the CSR money, which I have noticed in lot of people corporates who are doing CSR. They want to build their own hospital. They want to build their own infrastructure. They want to build their own things and then derive marketing value out of it.
True.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. At certain levels, that may be important, obviously, for companies, but to give it out to the experts who are living, breathing sport day in, day out, who know it, that trust, I don't think should be very difficult to bridge. We've got to be able to convince them somehow. I mean, especially even when I was at the IIS opening, Mr. Paj Jindal himself said it, right? That more and more corporates need to get out there and get to the larger ecosystem rather than creating their own, because then what is happening is that most of the smaller players are dying in the process. And in fact, the smaller players are the ones whose bread and butter it is, right? And they have so much passion, they have the knowledge, they have the time and the resources in terms of people to do it. So I think that galvanization or that gap, if it can be bridged in India, we will see results way quicker and in a more optimized manner than we are seeing today. Because I don't know,
may I jump in here? Because
sure.
I'm piggybacking off of what Deep would have shared with me sometime before and a bit today as well. But the truth is, and again, this is the point that we're making, that if we want to have that pathway to podium, if we want to have continued success at that Olympic level, we cannot just be invested in the pathway to podium by itself in isolation. this is part of a larger ecosystem, as you refer. So our commitment then needs to be in developing this sports sector as an industry sector. It includes, yes, the excellence, but also the return on investment for corporate, etc. So, and like any other sector, if we want it to be a thriving sector, we need to build it. And I think Rushdie recognized that one key part of it is building the human capacity, the individuals who can provide the support for the services that are required within the industry. We already, and you're already developing the demand. By having more children participate, there's going to be more demand for equipment, etc. So you need, but we need to provide the other level of that ecosystem that talks about the infrastructure and personnel to support it. So I think that at some level, and I'm not sure who's going to take on that role at a national policy level, if we agree that this is a sector that we want to develop, both for national social development, but also for economic and revenue streams, and for Olympic gold medals, then that team has to come together and say, well, what are all of the things that we need to put in place to make that happen? And I think that's the kind of approach that we need to take as we develop it as a sector on the entire ecosystem.
Absolutely. And ultimately, it's about joy, it's about entertainment, it's about a good life. Is all of these dimensions is what sport brings up. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your valuable comments, and over and above just a webinar, I keep saying that we should go out there and take action. So what is the most amazing thing is all of us here are actually taking action, and taking action at various levels with various impact. And I think more and more of us coming together to do that will definitely change the mind. It's just about changing the mind, right? We have the wherewithal, we have the resources, a few important people, coming together, understanding what it takes to build a sport, or to build a federation, or to build a system over a period of time will definitely, take us forward sooner rather than later. And with this, I'd like to obviously thank everybody, but if anyone has anything to say, I'd be more than happy to listen to it, as we still have about 3-4 minutes. So other than me asking a question, if anybody would want to, Rushdie, if you would want to say something, anyone, please. Yes.
Well, firstly, I'd probably want to say something to the parents out there, and probably most importantly, I'm a parent of a young athlete, and I think he's on here today, actually. So hi, Rais. Hope you're doing well. It's my boy. But to the parents of everybody, of all the young athletes out there, I think I don't think I've done everything right, but what I would always recommend and suggest is, make sure that you're there for your child, and that they can enjoy the time that they're playing there, that they're spending, on the sports field, in the swimming pool, on the basketball courts, wherever they are. Let them play different sports. Let them enjoy themselves. And at the end of the day, let's not try to project our dreams onto these young athletes. It's so important. It's a long journey to the Olympic Games, and they're going to need you all the way through that. So go out there, enjoy the time with them. Let them play different sports. When they don't want to go to training in the 9 and 10 and 11, it's okay. It's not the end of the world, right?
Yep.
Let them have fun with their friends. The dropout rate in sport, statistically is so high at this point in time, and I'm sure it will probably get even higher. And we need to make sure that we encourage our young kids to go out there, play sport, have fun, play with, be with their friends. And as a high performance, as a high performance man, for me, yes, like I said, there's a bit of selfishness attached to that, because the longer they play sport, the longer they stay in sport, the more likely it is that we're going to get a young athlete that is well-rounded, that is well-adjusted, that is going to go on to go through that formative years between junior and senior, and step up to international international performances. So to all the young to all the parents out there, let the kids have fun, let them enjoy themselves, play lots of sport, have fun with them doing it, and I'm sure everything will be just fine.
Yep. So true. Sometimes I rack my head, that what have cartoons done to make it so attractive to kids? Why can't sport become as attractive as cartoons, so that automatically kids are, starting to play sport at an early age?
But combination of sports and entertainment.
Absolutely.
That's the key.
That is the key, 100%. And that is the difference between, Dean, when you said the IPL and everything else, right? I think that marriage needs to happen. And I think at every level, see, even at the young level, right? School sport also is very, very serious. It's also very, very controlled currently. And it needs to open up, it needs to have a flair about it. It needs to have a certain kind of an attraction or a vibe about it for it to become cool to go out there and play. And I give
an example. I give an example before we go, which is very important to take with us. Sport is not for all. And especially at an early age, if we drive sport too early, it disengages more children for life than it does participate. And I give an example. A lot of people, and it drives me insane when I see it still, think it's fun to say to children, and this is young children, for a warm-up, jog around the playground 6 times. That's no fun. Have a game of tag. Have a game of tag for 5 minutes. You'll have a better warm-up, 5 minutes game of tag, and engage all children. They'll all have a smile on their face, and they'll all be ready to take part whatever's coming next.
Absolutely. So true. I mean, I think with that, Deep, anything that you may want to add to that other than that?
No, I think the mood was set right at the beginning when Dean said, let's have fun. And I think that's really the core message somewhere. We lose we take so much of stress in trying to make champions out of young minds that we lose out the focus on having fun with the children should have. So I think it's really important that they should have fun, and the process, talent will show up, and medals will be won.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, that's perfect. And
I want to add something there. I think we want to also be careful that we don't go from one extreme to the next. And so there are many programs that offer themselves as sport programs, and they focus on fun, but without any proper learning. So I think for me, it's really about creating that early positive experience in the sport that children enjoy. Remember, if children are good at something, they enjoy it better. So yes, make it a positive and enjoyable experience, but also make sure it's a quality sport experience, that they are actually doing the correct thing so they can be more successful. So it's a little balance there. So yes, positive, fun and enjoyable, but also quality in the sport experience. And that's why things are important, both in the technical capacity and competency, but also in how they interact with children and young people.
Absolutely. And I think we will noted all of these points, and we will work towards making that happen. And I think I'll take this opportunity on behalf of all the panelists as well as all our viewers to also wish Jeremy all the best.
Thank
when you go out there to represent Canada. We'll all be rooting for you as well, because I think sport knows no boundaries, no barriers. So all the best to you. And
thank you.
I think thank you so much, everybody, for sparing your valuable time. And if there's anything that we could do as Sports for All, we'll be more than happy to play a role in creating an environment, ecosystem